All right, let's roll out to Texas and a suburb right outside of Dallas, Texas. And let's be joined by one of the greatest wide receivers in football history, Heisman Trophy winner, Oakland Raider great Tim Brown. Tim, welcome to the show. Let's get right to your Las Vegas Raiders now. I want to start by asking you a question about Jon Gruden, who has a reputation for being really rough on quarterbacks. The Raiders have obviously went out and got Marcus Mariota this offseason. You played for Jon Gruden. Is he too rough on quarterbacks?
I don't think so, man. You know, you look what he did for Rich Gannon. You know, he turned Rich from a journeyman quarterback into a MVP of the league quarterback, man. So I think that alone just shows you how good it is. Now, you have to be mentally tough at that position anyway. But if you have a coach like Gruden, man, you really have to be mentally tough. Otherwise, you're not going to make it with him, no doubt about that.
Derek Carr, is he mentally tough enough for Jon Gruden? You still believe in Derek Carr. Tell us why.
Well, Derek has, he had Amari Cooper for a couple years, but I think really when you look at what happened there, the relationship with Cooper and Carr really didn't pan out the way everybody wanted. But I don't think the guy's really had a lot of talent around him other than Amari since he's been around him. So now he has a first-round pick. He has, a running back. He has a great tight end. He doesn't have an excuse anymore. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to have to get it done this year. And what does that mean, getting it done? Does that mean they get to the Super Bowl? I don't know if it means all that. But certainly, when you look back on the year, you can't look at Derek Carr and not be able to do a big check mark. Otherwise, you may be looking at Marcus Mariota coming in or something like that in the future. So.
Now, Tim, how different would the Raiders season have been if Antonio Brown had behaved?
Antonio is a game breaker, man. He's a big play guy. And when you look at the Raiders last year, the one thing that they missed was they missed the ability to make big plays. They didn't have 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown plays. I think Derek Waller had the longest, pass. And, I think it was at Denver when he took a ball 60-some yards and he didn't score a touchdown. But, so you need a receiver who can make those big plays, whether it's a guy who can catch a 5 or 10-yarder and turn it into a 50-yarder or a guy who can take the top off and make it happen. And Antonio has the ability to do both. So that was unfortunate, man. And it happened at a point where you couldn't go out and get somebody else. And that was the really bad thing about what happened with that whole situation. You couldn't go out and get another free agent of that level because it was time to go play football. So, it was a big hurt. I mean, I'm sure Antonio is wishing things would have gone differently, and I know the Raiders do.
You think AB will ever be a number one receiver again?
Well, you hope so, man. You'd hate to see a guy with that kind of talent, man, all of a sudden, just fall off the map and never be able to get it done again. Certainly it's going to be tough because he's going to have so many things coming at him. How do you handle those things? Can you handle them in a way that a team is going to put up with you the way you handle them? So talent-wise, I mean, I don't think you lose talent in 1 year. But I don't know if he can sit out 2-3 years and then think he can come back in and light this league up. There are too many young guys coming in. We saw that in this year's draft. How many receivers win the first 2 rounds? At some point, teams are going to be willing to take a shot on these younger guys and go with a veteran guy who has problems.
Now, yourself and a few others excluded, what is it about the receiver position that makes so many of them divas?
Well, look, I mean, you play a position where you're not supposed to get hit or, you're not supposed to have a lot of contact, man. So you can talk all that noise because you can conceivably go through a game and never really get tackled, never really get dirty. So it's a lot easier to talk noise when you know your head is not going to get split open on every play, So, it's just the way it is, man. I mean, hey, some of the best trash talkers are guys who've never made the field. As far as the Oakland Raiders are concerned, I mean, we had some guys who could really talk. They just never could get on the field. But I'm not surprised, man. It's a position that people say it's a soft position, but it just depends on who's playing that position, I guess.
Now, your Raiders, you guys drafted your version of Tyreek Hill and Henry Ruggs. If you look at that decision, and it was based on others being evaluated higher, what do you think of that decision?
Well, look, I mean, when I talked to Gruden, and what he said to me was, man, we got to get some juice, man. We got to get some juice, and that meant to me he needed somebody like James Jett, like we had back in the day, a guy who could absolutely take the top off the defense anytime you wanted him to, and no matter if you threw him the ball or not, you had one guy on, and most of the time you had the safety trying to come over the top to make sure. And every once in a while we would throw James the ball, he'd make the play. So when you got a guy like Ruggs who can not only take the top off, but catch that 10, 15-yarder and turn it into a touchdown, it's going to make it really tough. I mean, so now you got Derek Wallace, you got Williams, you got all these other guys, man, who you can get into the offense, knowing that the top of the defense is going to be taken off because this guy is going to make sure that happens. So it's Jon Gruden at his best as far as I'm concerned. I think people understand that once the season gets going.
All right, Tim, you're one of the Raiders' all-time greats. I'm sure you keep in contact with other Raider greats. How do you and they feel about the move to Las Vegas? Excited or disappointed?
Well, probably a little bit of both, to be honest with you, man, because, I think everybody wants to see the team stay in Oakland because that's where the history is and all that. But you're disappointed because, you really feel as if the city of Oakland didn't stand up the way they should have to make this thing happen. So from that standpoint, it was very disappointing. But I am super excited about the team being in Vegas, man. I'm telling you, it's going to be an incredible thing. For the first time, as far as since I've known the Raiders, they have their own stadium, man. And I just think that is a remarkable feat in their legacy, and it's going to be an incredible thing, man. So now it's time to turn the page, right? We are the Vegas Raiders. You look up Tim Brown and Oakland Raiders, it doesn't say that anymore. It's Las Vegas Raiders. So everything has been transferred over, and it's time to move on and get this thing done, man. But certainly, there's some disappointment because, guys wanted to be in Oakland, but it's time to move on and do what we have to do, and I think that's what this organization has done.
Speaking of remarkable feats, to make the Hall of Fame as a wide receiver, having caught passes from 19 different quarterbacks, you weren't Joe Montana and Jerry Rice, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin. You did it with a bunch of different guys. Am I wrong for saying that Jeff George is the greatest quarterback you ever played with?
Well, he's undoubtedly the best passing quarterback I played with, no doubt about it. The kid was remarkable, man, and being able to get the ball exactly where you wanted it. I remember when he first got to the Raiders, he said, "Hey, man, I noticed you run a lot of crossing routes. Where do you want the ball?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Where do you want the ball?" And I was like, "Well, can I get it like a foot in front of me?" He was like, "Okay, yeah, no problem." And I can tell you, man, every chance he had to get it there, that's what he did. He put the ball 1 foot in front of me and allowed me to run into the ball. So the kid, he was unbelievable, man, no doubt about it. And certainly Rich Gannon and I had an incredible 4 or 5 year run together, man. So without him, I'm definitely not sitting with this bus behind me over in my dining room over there. So he played a big part in me getting to the Hall of Fame, no doubt about it.
Tim, thank you for playing nice with my Jeff George question. It'll be good. I can call him tonight, and he'll be very pleased with me and you. Thank you so much for joining us. We got to keep it moving. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.